And today was day 2 of jury selection in the highly anticipated trial for the first of 6 Baltimore police officers charged in the death of Freddie Gray. And opening statements could begin tomorrow. Yesterday on the record reported that jurors inside the courtroom could hear protesters outside the courtroom chanting, "So can Officer William Porter and the other 5 officers get a fair trial?" Former DOJ official and former deputy legal counsel for Maryland's governor, Chrys Kefalas, goes on the record. Chris, who's been here before, but before we get to Baltimore, you have an announcement to make.
I do. You know, Marylanders have needed a different direction for a long time. For 30 years of failures they've dealt with. It's time now to restore the American dream that inspired my grandparents to come to the United States, settle in Baltimore, and raise a family. And so, to restore that dream, to restore the middle class, I'm going to run for the United States Senate to represent the people of Maryland who deserve more jobs, fewer funerals.
And I should say, as a Republican?
Yes.
And you are going to run as an openly gay candidate?
Yeah, no one talks about that on the campaign trail. They talk about jobs. How are you going to support the middle class? What are you going to do to improve national security in America? Those are the issues that they care about, and that's what I'm running about.
Governor Hogan is a Republican. New governor, has he indicated at all? I realize it's early. Are you likely to get his support? Because in a Democratic state, I imagine that's important.
Well, when we win the Republican nomination, I intend to run on, obviously, his success. He's a good friend. We go back to the Ehrlich years. He and I served Governor Ehrlich. He in personnel. I handled legal issues. He proved that a Republican in Maryland can win and be successful.
All right, well, we'll be watching your race. All right, now turning to the state of Maryland, Baltimore. Do you think these police officers, I mean, you've got jury selection going on, and I don't know why the judge let this happen. He didn't move to another court, but they could actually hear outside, according to Griff Jenkins, our reporter, they could hear the protesters outside as they're trying to pick a jury.
Well, you know, there are some challenges. Baltimore City is a tough place to prosecute, but the judge in this case was a judge we appointed during the Ehrlich years, Barry. He was always fair-minded, always a guy who...
Was he a justice lawyer? He used to prosecute police in the Justice Department?
He was at Justice, but he also was a prosecutor in Baltimore City. So he has a good amount of experience that he brings in. He's always had a reputation as being fair, impartial, someone who could look at the fair case and make an assessment. But, you know, he's left open the possibility that he could potentially move this case out of Baltimore. But I think, you know, the situation with the Freddie Gray trial, the situation we're dealing with in Chicago that you saw underscores greater problems that we have. You know, the lack of jobs and opportunity in Baltimore, the lack of efficiency and effectiveness on the war on drugs.
You know, people have been going after the police and how they handled the protests and riots in April. But the fact is that a lot of the city government has gotten a lot of money to try to fix these problems for the citizens, and they didn't fix it. And then, of course, everyone, you know, all hell breaks loose like it did, and now everyone blames the cops for the riots and, of course, the people who are looting. But what about the money that was given to the politicians, the city council, to fix things?
Well, I mean, there have been failures, but my point is the failures aren't just in Baltimore City and aren't by local municipal officials. It's also in Washington. The war on drugs has resulted in a situation, as you know, Greta, where, you know, you have crime is creating issues that have resulted where a law enforcement official and the community are separated. There isn't any relationship working together. I mean, these are problems that have to be addressed, and they can only be addressed in Washington by, you know, focusing on the war on drugs, ending it, and decriminalizing in many cases, decriminalizing a lot of drugs.
Well, I think if you follow the money in some of these local governments to see, you know, if they make promises that they're going to help the people in the community and they get millions of dollars in federal money and it doesn't happen, that there's obviously a situation, something's not right. Anyway.
Well, that's why we need a better direction and a different direction. I hope folks will go to ChrysForMaryland.com to find out more.
Chris, nice to see you, and we'll be watching.
Great. Thanks, Greta.